Good afternoon. Bienvenidos a Que Pasa Mujer. Thank you and welcome to Que Pasa Mujer. We're here celebrating another Sunday, and I think it's the first Sunday in May, so we're super excited. Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde. Bienvenidos a Que Pasa Mujer. Y estamos celebrando otro mes. Creo que es el primer domingo de mayo de este mes. Entonces, otro día para celebrar y hablar de nuestras metas y todas las inspiraciones que tenemos para terminar. Porque ya estamos como a mediados de año. So, vamos a evaluar dónde estamos con nuestras metas. We're going to go ahead and get started really quick. We're going to bring Maddie on, one of our hosts. Hola, Maddie, ¿cómo estás?
Buenas tardes. I'm doing good. You know, we're here. We made it through another week, like I always say. So happy to be here.
Yes, I love it. So this is the first Sunday of May. Like,
Correct.
I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, wow, we're kind of like halfway through the year.
Almost
Yeah.
there. Yes. Next Sunday is gonna be Mother's Day.
That's right. We're gonna go ahead and bring Nikki on. And yes, we're also celebrating Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. Hola, Nicte, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, mujeres, ¿cómo están?
Good. It's nice to see you.
I know. It's nice to see you guys. Good afternoon. How's the future?
The future is great. Nicte is mentioning the future because she's what are you, 11 hours behind us? 6 hours? Oh, that's not bad. 6 hours behind us. We're on the Eastern Standard time zone, while Nicte is probably just getting started.
Yeah, just waking up. Not just kidding. I wish.
It's gonna rain, Nick.
Yeah,
it's gonna rain.
Oh, is it gonna? We've been having rain off and on.
It's gonna rain in the future.
Yeah, it's gonna rain in a few hours. Yeah. So I just wanted to today, of course, we're going to do our rounds and see what you guys have been working on. I'll go first since I always go last. But it's the same thing, to be honest with you, is thinking about my children, my sons. I have a 14-year-old. He'll be 15 soon in July. And then my other son will be 21 in October. And it just makes me think of self-reflection and where I've been thinking about what am I going to do once my youngest goes to college. So I have 4 years. So I'm looking forward to that time. And I have it envisioned in my mind. And hopefully it kind of works out that way. But, you know, we all make plans and things get altered. But I would love to. That's what I've been thinking about a lot the last 2 or 3 weeks is what my life is going to be like in 2029. So that has been my thought. Maddie, your turn. Because I know you've been there. What I'm talking about, you've been there already.
Yes, I'm like, you're empty nesting and you have like 4 years to go, girl. Get yourself together. It's been crazy. Life has been crazy the past couple of weeks. So just kind of trying to adjust. A lot going on. Thankfully, the family's healthy. Everybody's well. So I am grateful for that. Have a lot going on with my poetry team. We're getting ready to go compete and represent our area in Knoxville, Tennessee this summer. So we are doing a lot of fundraising activities. So one of the fundraiser activities that we have is we did publish a book. It's called Bend Them Till They Break by the Verve Benders 2025. And that's kind of one of, if you've been to our events, and I know you have, Viviana, that's one of our chants, our cheers. We say, Verve Benders, bend them till they break. So that's where the title of the book came from. And then he has poems from all 5 2025 members, and it has pictures of us. So they're $15. So if anybody is interested, you can send me a message on Facebook, or it's Madeline Garcia, or Instagram is MaddieG98. We also have a 50-50 raffle going on. So we're selling tickets. They're $10. And if you win, you get 50% of the first proceeds or all the funds that we have collected. And then, of course, we have, we're still in our exhibition season. So we have 2 shows left before the event. So we have one coming up this Wednesday, and it's our new-ish slam, and it's where we get to compete only with poems that we wrote in April, because April was National Poetry Month. So it's all new poems. And then it's our book release as well. And then we have our June event, which is going to be our send-off event. And we get to present our group poems and all the stuff that we've been working on. So really excited. The other thing that I want to mention is my niece just competed in the A10 championship for Division One track and field, and she had 3 finals today. And she happy to report that she got 3rd place in the 4x100 with her teammates, and then in the 100 finals she got 3rd place, and then she got 2nd place in the 200 finals. So very proud of her. So congratulations. Her name is Mia Suero, and she competes for George Mason University. So very proud of her. And then, and I haven't killed anybody, so I'm very happy for that. So, what about you, Nick?
Oh, this is awesome. I first of all, I love Maddie, everything that you've been having going on, and hearing you about your other book, which is awesome. Congratulations, and also how proud you are of your familia and their logros. Viviana, I feel for you. I'm way not even anywhere being close to being an empty nester, but I've had many friends that have been through that transition, so I know it's what is like the I can't even think of the term, but it's like a bittersweet season for many. So me, I've been super busy nonstop, which has been a blessing. March flew by. I was very busy with work, traveled a lot, which was great. Definitely took a toll on my body. That constant time change, going back and forth, and then it's a new season that I have never been used to. I think it's where you are on a plane for so long and then the time change and you have to readjust your body and it takes a good minute to kind of readjust, is something that is definitely, I think as you're older, it's much harder to readjust. So I've been embracing that. And then April was super busy. And here we are in May. And it's looking like it's going to be busy again, which I'm very thankful for. I think this year I really wanted to be very focused on slowing down in the summer for when my son has school off, because I know there's going to be a lot of entertaining that I have to do. So we've looked at camps. We have a few of those things set up, but I really want to be more present in the summer. So I'm working so hard in this last quarter that I have of him being in school. So it's been busy, but very thankful that I'm blessed and doing good. I've been super busy and riding my motorcycle, which I don't think I had ever told you guys, but I do have a motorcycle. So I've been riding again, which has been nice to be able to get on and not freak out like I was initially, which was really odd. But yeah, that's kind of like a quick, como una suma de all the things that have been happening in a resumen, gracias, of the last few months, weeks that's been going on within like 2-3 minutes of my summary.
That's good. I love it. I know you mentioned the bittersweet, but I get excited when I think about it because I like to see their progress and them coming out of the shell. Mm-hmm. But I think the bitterness will probably be that I'll see them less.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that I'm coming up with a plan where I can do some of that self-love, because they won't be here. So that's why I want to be able to kind of travel a little bit. I really feel good when I go back to Colombia. I feel, even though I left when I was so little, I left when I was 4 or 5, but I'm so connected to it that when I go back, I like it refuels me, to be honest with you. So I'm looking forward to being able to go and stay for an extended time versus being limited to have to come back here. So I'm going to be doing that in the next 4 years, hopefully.
Nice.
So we'll see. So tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. And I know a lot of people celebrate it and they don't know why they celebrate it. It's just a drinking day, drink margaritas. The restaurants come up with Cinco de Mayo special menus. And I know, Nicte, you're the Cinco de Mayo and Dia de las. No, you're not an expert at it?
No, it's
You
just
mean?
I'm nodding my head because it's a very Cinco de Mayo is just it's technically a batalla de Puebla. That it wasn't a major battle, but what's happened is that because it became such a big marketing sales day for restaurants, that's why people push it so much. And unfortunately, a lot of people have thought that Cinco de Mayo means Mexican Independence Day, which is not. So that's why I laugh because I see so many businesses saying, come enjoy your Cinco de Mayo festivities and get all these margaritas y tacos y que los sombreros and all that stuff. That's why I'm like nodding my head. I'm like, um, but yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with the Cinco de Mayo. I think it's just become really not a major battle. But it's used more for like a celebration to get money from businesses, which is totally okay. But I think it's that people aren't really necessarily aware of, like the meaning or the history, which isn't such. In Mexico, they don't really celebrate it. Like my family in Mexico, they're like, we don't,
It's just another
it's not
day.
a major thing. So it's mostly here, and restaurants and businesses benefit from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we know the significance of it. And that's why, I wanted you to say what it actually was. But I think it's just another propaganda to be able to make money. And every month, especially here in the United States, there's something that is celebrated. So this
Mhm.
month we have Cinco de Mayo, we have Mother's Day, we have Memorial Day. So and then there's gonna be something. So in June is, just Father's Day, I believe. Like it's always something every single month. And
Question for
then
you, ladies. Before we go any further, do you guys celebrate Mother's Day on the same day that they do here, or is it different in Colombia or in Mexico?
I
The
think
Mother's Day
they
is the day
celebrate it on
before.
a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, Nicte.
Yeah, I know it's Mother's Day in Mexico, and you guys know that sometimes I don't know which if it's my Mexican, my Colombian, or Venezuelan side that I'm celebrating, so it's one of those. But I do know at least in Mexico, it's before the Mother's Day that they celebrate here, but I don't know the exact day. I just go with the flow because sometimes I'm so confused. I am
Yeah,
like, oh,
I
we're
know we
celebrating it.
celebrate it here. We follow the celebration here of the United States because we're in the
Mhm.
United States. But I think in Colombia, I think it's Mother's Day. They do it like the second Sunday of the month. But I believe that there's like a Tuesday or something that they celebrate also as well. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
confusing the two holidays,
Oh,
but yeah.
no.
But I know there is a difference. Is
Mhm.
it different in the Dominican Republic, Maddie?
Yes, we celebrate the last Sunday of the month, so
Oh,
we get to do two Mother's Days, and then we get to do two Father's Days too,
oh, I love that.
because we
Oh,
do
so
the
you
last
celebrate the
Sunday.
two here?
Oh yeah, we do. We're celebrating next Sunday, and then for Dominican Mother's Day, we get together as well.
Oh, that's cool.
That is
I like that.
awesome. Double the celebration.
Yeah, because I'm like, do I get two gifts?
I don't know about the two gift, but at least two meals, yes.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Oh.
At least we'll have that. But today we're going to talk a little bit about traditions. We wanted to talk about, like Cinco de Mayo. So I don't know, Nicte, since you have a younger one, whether it's for the holidays or even morals, maybe also as well. And I think that you're not there yet, but simple stuff like how in our countries you tend to stay home until you get married, for example. Do you think that that's something that you would do with your kids, Nick? There, would you promote that, or you would
Um,
just say, hey, once you turn 18, you kind of got to start heading in your own direction?
um, Yeah, that's a great question. We've talked about it, and I when I hear people say, "Oh, once you turn 18, you're out," and I get where that comes from. It's like, okay, you're an adult, you can be independent, you push them forward. But I think that we've, talked about it. If he may go to college and he may be in a different city, so that completely makes sense and you support it. And we've said, hey, we're not going to kick him out, but it's not going to be a freeloader, where it's like, oh, you just come and play video games and do nothing. No, 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 say no. Because then that's where it's like, no, you're going to get a job, you're going to go to college, like further yourself so that you can have better opportunities. And that's the thing where it's like, okay, if we see that there's that hard work and contributions, then it's different, but definitely not a freeloader. Or, we hear those sad stories where it's a 40-year-old man still living at their parents' house and they just play video games all day type thing. I think that's, you want to encourage them, but also find that balance where you're not nagging. Because I feel that when you nag, kids are going to want to rebel porque you're like, ay, me están jodiendo otra vez. So it's like finding that balance of encouraging and pushing and showing them like, hey, you'll get more opportunities as you push and try and, get yourself educated, get your degree, move forward, but don't stop at that. Because I think that's what's also very important is that you continually learn that a degree is only going to take you to a certain extent. You got to keep learning. You got to keep pushing and driving. That's, I think, where we are really wanting to go, that it's not just, follow this path, but it's the path that's going to help you grow more.
Right, the work ethic.
See,
what about for you, Maddie? Because I know you have children of different gender. Have you noticed a difference in how they are, or the expectations of a little girl versus you have a son? Do you tend to treat them a little bit different, like in a protection mode?
I think we do that. It's like sometimes unconsciously you just do, because I know my sons are very protective towards my daughter, but she's 4 years older than they are, but now it's like, now they're 21, so they're like, oh, like we're, get away from my sister kind of thing, so but I think we do. And then they grew up differently. So my daughter, again, being the oldest, being, the only girl, it tended to be a lot of me and her all the time. And then with the boys, them being two, they always had each other because my daughter didn't have anybody, so she had me. So I had to play with her. I had to talk to her. I had to do things with her. The boys had each other, and I always talk about it, like my boys being twin, they didn't speak until they were like 5 because they didn't need to. They had one another. They could communicate with each other. Only them understood what they were saying. And then, the basics they could say and they would, request it, but they entertain each other, so they didn't need anybody else. And then when they started growing up, it was, they've been playing sports all their life, very disciplined, very, strict. Dad was very strict when it came to sports. So that's all they've done all their lives. So, for me, like Nick said, it's very important that they know, that they have an open door here in the house. They can always be a part of this. This is their house. However, mom and dad have rules. So you have to follow the rules if you're going to be here in the house. And then if you're not studying, as long as you're studying, we're going to help you and we're going to provide and we're going to do whatever we can to make it happen. But if you're not studying, then you have to work and, you have to be responsible, pay a bill or something, So, but you have to do something, at least make money to pay your own gas, So yeah, I do have to say, the boys, they have been good, but they have had it a lot easier than my daughter, just because they've been playing organized sports all of their life. I don't think my boys have ever had a job. They do umpire here and there. They do baseball related stuff. They do camps. They do, like things like that, but not like my daughter worked at Subway and she did that for the whole summer. She worked at the Y and she, like she had all these jobs before while she was in college and she, right before, but the boys never had any of that because they were constantly playing, so they couldn't have a strict job with a strict schedule because then that would interrupt the baseball. So so yes, we treated them a little bit different, I would say, but it's again because they grew up differently. But again, when it comes to tradition, I think, the one thing, like I said, this will always be their home, whether they're 50, 20, 30, where I'm at, there's always going to be space for them, but not to freeload.
Interesting. All right, so we want to say hello to some of our audience members. Lili Mato says hello, and she said they celebrate Mother's Day in Colombia el 13 de mayo, so May 13th.
Okay.
And then Valentina is also saying hello, and she's from Mexico, and she said they do it on May the 10th. And then Lily said that we have to celebrate every day. So I think I like that option. So my son is an athlete, right? Both of my sons are athletes, and I think it's about teaching them, how to treat women, how to treat their mother. And so, like, for example, my son is going to be out of town next weekend, and it's Mother's Day. And so I was like, well, you need to do something today because you won't be here next week. So I got breakfast in bed this morning, and I had to school him a little bit, but it still happened, and he loves to cook. So it was a great gift. And I said, you see, like, that was kind of easy, you didn't have to buy me anything. It was just a gesture. He said, yeah, but I could have been sleeping. I said, still, it was great that you did it. But just I think us having to teach them just the value, and that it doesn't really take a lot, just a simple thought. Like we're super content with that. Like, I know there's a TikTok video out there that I've sent to all of my kids saying, just clean, and that's how you show mom that you love her. So just clean, 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 clean. So stuff like that. I also wanted to ask you, Maddie, did you have a quinceañera, and did your daughter have one?
I did not have a big celebration. They do. So one thing that my parents always did, they did celebrate our birthdays. So they always made it a point that we had a cake, and that there was always a celebration. And like towards the end of my mom's life, like she was like, it was harder for her to get around, so she couldn't buy us gifts. So she would always make sure we had a big meal and a cake. Always. So I know for my 15th birthday, I didn't have a big celebration, but I did have a party. I remember having a party at the house, and my aunt, my mom's youngest sister, she took me out to get some professional pictures done. And to this day, I have a poster-sized picture of my 15th birthday, and with my big hair, and it's like I look like a lioness. And I still have it, and it's one of my favorites. So that's for my 15th birthday. And then for my 16th, we convinced, so my mom, they're a family of 12. So my grandparents had 12 children, so we're a huge family. And my grandparents, the apartment that they lived in, when they came from Dominican Republic, we still have it. My uncle still lives in there. So that apartment has been in our family for over 50 years or even more, because I remember being born there, ever since I can remember. But it's a huge apartment. It has 5 bedrooms, and it has, the big living room and whatever. So it was the gathering point always, every year, for all of us. I don't know how we convinced my granddad to let me have a Sweet 16 party at the house. And when I tell you that I had never seen so many people in one place, it was crazy, but it was amazing. So I did have, I didn't have the big dress, but it was a beautiful dress. My mom always, when I was growing up, she used to do my hair with like the little curls, like when you curl it by hand, and it was like a specific hairstyle. So, when I was growing up, I'm like, no, you're not doing that. You used to do that when I was 5. I don't want it. But for my 16th birthday, she styled my hair specifically like that. And it was like every detail was very purposeful. And I do have a picture of that day too. And my dad has it in his room now. And so yeah, they were both very special. So I got a 15th and a 16th, and both special in different ways. And my daughter I gave her a choice. I said, do you want 15 or 16? and she chose 16, and we did have a sweet 16 here, and the family came, and we rented a little place here by the house, and it was beautiful. So yes, we did. The boys did not, so don't ask me. They did not have one.
What about you, Nika? Did you have one?
I didn't. Well, I know my parents had asked me if, and that was 15 for me. They had asked me if I wanted one of the Sweet 15, la quinceañera, or if I wanted, in my high school, we were having a school trip to go to Quebec for our French class. And so said, you can either go to that or have your Sweet 15. I'm like, oh, I'll take the trip anytime. Like,
Yeah.
why do I want to party? Like, I think I just wasn't too much about partying. I wasn't part of like the cool group when you were a kid, which I really didn't care. So the thought of having a party to be all in dresses, and I was like, nope, take me to the trip. And yeah, that was awesome. I loved it. We had a really great time. And yeah, I think my first experience as at a Sweet 16 was yours, Viviana. That's
Mm.
like that's how I got my fix. I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is cool."
Yeah, I had a big one. I don't think that I asked for it. I think it was just given. When I turned 15, I think my mom took me to Colombia, and then when I turned 16, I think they called it a quinceañera, but I was really turning 16. But it was big. It was bigger than my wedding. Like I think that was my wedding. But yeah, it was big. I had, ¿cómo se llama las damas y
Chambelán?
los caballeros? Like I had
Una
Yeah.
all of that.
corte. Una corte.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when I got married, like 5 people came. So that was my wedding.
You were lucky the groom was there, right, for the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I'm not a big party person, I like stuff that is more low key, small numbers. So, but I had a good time. I remember having a good time, and I have lots of pictures.
Yeah. I still remember it,
Yes, and I'm an
that
only child, Lee. Uh,
So you had no choice. You had to have a quinceañera or sweet 16, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, it was a good one, though. It was very memorable. I still remember it. I don't remember how old I was. We'll do the math, -5. 10?
Do you remember your
like,
colors? What color, like
madre.
what color was the dress and the
Pink,
chambelanes and
pink,
everything was pink? Okay.
pink.
And then,
Everything,
like,
everything was
all
pink.
the dresses were, like, como
Yeah.
like a peach, kinda like a peachy, light peach color. And mi abuelita made all the dresses.
Yes.
Like, yeah, she made everyone. She made Vivi's dress, which was gorgeous, and then she made all the women's dresses. Yeah, that was freaking amazing to make, like, so many
That was my
dresses.
wedding, I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my wedding.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about padrinos and madrinas? Do you guys still follow that tradition?
I guess for me, I did have a padrino madrina because I mean that's mainly celebrated in the Catholic religion, and of course I grew up Catholic and Dominican Republic. Catholicism is the religion over there, the official religion. So yes, I was baptized. I don't even remember. I was a baby when I was baptized. So I grew up with a padrino and madrina. Of course, like my brother was the oldest, so my brother. My mom's sister was his madrina, and then his padrino, it's in Dominican Republic. But yeah, so we grew up with padrino and madrinas. However, as an adult, I haven't been a part of the Catholic Church in a very long time. My husband's family it's more Christian, so it's kind of a little bit different. So what we ended up doing was what they do is they present the children at the congregation. So not necessarily with a padrino or madrina. However, the tradition is that whoever is the padrino or madrina of your wedding, your best man and your bridesmaid, those are the padrinos of your firstborn. So, even though we never really made it official, my friends, every time they do see my daughter, they're like, I'm your padrino, I'm your madrina, because of that. But yes.
What about you, Nick? There.
I can relate to you, Maddie, in many senses. I grew up as well with, I don't really remember who my padrino is, but with madrinas. Um, so that tells you already the story, but and I'm so sorry if I'm totally blanking out, but I think that as an adult, it isn't the same like when you were the kid. I think that when you're a kid, it's a lot more special, and as you get as an adult, it's just a different relationship that you may have, whether it's a family member or a not a family member, but that becomes, como se dice, chosen family. Um, I think that's where it starts to be a different relationship as you get older, but I think it's more special when you're a kid. For us, it's so hard to have embraced that because we're always moving, and some of the family that like we knew like hadn't known Asiel at that time. So what we feel very blessed is that a lot of people have kind of become, it's like a como se dice, it takes a village to raise people, and that's where I feel like we are at, just because our life is very unique, being part of the military and you're moving all the time. It's not everyone understands it, even if you try to explain it. So that's what we've learned to embrace, is that we have had that support from people who are in similar situations to us that get that without necessarily having the label. Because I think sometimes the label loses its meaning if you don't do it de corazon. And I'd rather have someone doing de corazon than to have the label and, not really follow through with that. That's kind of where I'm at personally.
Yeah, because also the whole meaning of having a madrina and a padrino is in case something happens to your parents, this person will assume responsibility. So just having a padrino and a madrina just to say that you have one without having a relationship with them. If something happens to your parents, are you really gonna go live with them? You know what I'm saying? Or are they just your padrino while your parents are alive, and then when your parents are gone, they're not there? You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things that you kind of have to be, if you're gonna take it serious, you gotta be careful because there's meaning behind it.
Yeah. And I think Viviana might have been so in the thought that she might have frozen on us.
I think she's thinking really hard right now.
She's like, these are really good insights. So hopefully, I think she's back. Are we back?
I see some movement.
Yes.
Blink twice if you're alive, Viviana.
I think this sometimes happens when we have like deep conversations or conversations about like everything, that the Wi-Fi can't handle us.
That's a good explanation, Nikki.
Yeah.
Question for you, Nick. Is there a particular tradition that you would like for your son to always remember? Like, for example, I always tell, the one thing that I always tell my boys is, and I think I've said this in the show many times, their last name is Garcia. So when I named my children, all three of them, it was very important to me that their name was pronounced the same, whether you were speaking in English or whether you were speaking in Spanish. I didn't want a name that sounded a little bit different. Like my name is Madeline, but it's spelled Madeline with an E at the end. So if you're reading it, you say, oh, Madeline, unless you know that it's Madeline, So I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted the name to sound exactly the same. And then their last name, I've always taught them to say Garcia. You got to roll your R because that's how you say your name. So to me, it's important. And I always remind them, to me, it's always important that they pronounce their name correctly. Is there something in particular that you are teaching your son that you would like for him to carry on?
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I totally relate to that. We make sure that our son, because unfortunately, your last name will always get butchered sometimes, and people don't
Mhm.
mean to. Like, I do appreciate people will say, "I'm so sorry. Is this how I'm pronouncing it? I want to do." I so appreciate when people do that. I knew that at one point in my adult life, I was switching how you pronounce even like my name. I'll say Nick Tay, but it's like Nick Tay. It's supposed to have an accent on the E. We've never spelt it that
Mhm.
way. But now I'm like, I when people are wanting to know how to ¿cómo se dice? Pronounce it correctly, that's a cue for me. Like, hey, I need to like say how it is. So
Mhm.
anyways, with all that, we've been telling him like, no, you say cuevas. You don't have to change it first. If someone says it different, I say no, you tell them cuevas. And it's about honoring
Mhm.
our heritage, our names. And I feel that people are a lot more open and genuinely wanting to learn how to pronounce names across the world, not just Latinos, like
Mhm.
across the world, that I feel like it's a beautiful thing to embrace. So that's definitely something that we've been doing. Another small thing that we do is the bendición at night. We just do the bendición and he'll give us the bendición. So and it's something that it's just now I grew up with it. My husband didn't grow up with that, but now we all do it. So it's this beautiful thing that we'll say our prayer at night, and then we, give each other la bendición, and he does that, and he'll say it in English and in Spanish. So I really love that.
Do you say bendición? The whole word, bendición?
Yes, I've told him bendición. He still doesn't fully get bendición, or he'll say blessings, or we say bendición, papito. Oh, and then he'll say, so it's after we say our prayer, then he'll he'll say it both in English and Spanish. So he'll tell it to me in Spanish, and then he'll tell it to my husband in English. And it's great because when my husband's like, well, we also need to teach it to him in English, because he's asked me to say it in English. I'm like, I don't know how to say it in English. I'm like, I know how to say it in Spanish. So even when we would attend church, like, and we started going more to a Christian church, there's still prayers that silently in my head I would say in Spanish.
Mhm.
I knew exactly what it was in English, pero yo no lo sabía en inglés. And I'm like, so I've like
El
mumbled, but
Padre
I'm like,
Nuestro. El
sí,
Padre Nuestro.
sí.
I hear it in English and I could probably mouth it, but if I go to a mass in English, I am saying my Padre Nuestro in Spanish because that's
Mhm,
how I learned it. I did my first communion in Spanish. So
sí,
like there's certain prayers, that I don't know. It's like
yeah.
counting. I always, that's like I always say that to everybody, when I'm at work and I'm counting money. If I'm counting really fast, I'm counting in Spanish. I know how to count in English, probably equally as fast. But when I'm not thinking and I'm not making an effort, I'm counting really fast. I'm counting in Spanish. But I asked you about bendición because we, again, as tradition as well, we ask for la bendición from our elders. So that is
Yes.
something that if I see my dad every day in the morning when I wake up and I see my dad, the first thing that I ask is for blessings, and that's just it's like autopilot, like you don't even think about it. And that's what I said, sometimes we do things and we don't know the meaning behind it, but there's meaning behind it, but we don't say bendición, we just say sion, so and that's how it is. So I see my dad, I'm like sion papi. I see my
Oh,
in-laws, it's like sion pito, and like, so I think I told you the story. My grandfather, my nephew was learning how to say abuelito, but it was a mouthful for him, so he could never say it. So he ended up saying pito. So now my in-laws are Pito and Pita, and all of the grandkids call them that. So, and I think even people from the outside that meet them for the first time, they're like, "Oh, hi Pito, hi Pita," So,
oh,
but we say Sion. We don't say the whole word, word. We say Sion, and my kids do the same thing.
oh, that's so
Nick,
cute.
did that come from your Mexican side or your Colombian side, the bendición?
The bendición, I actually learned that in Venezuela. Like, I would always hear. So we had several of our uncles. Well, technically, they're my cousins, a certain level of cousins. Mi tío Carlos, Juanito, mi tía Patricia, like they are all
So your
Colombian.
second cousins.
Thank you, second cousins. I call them tíos and tías because that just was too complicated for me to navigate as a kid.
When you don't
But
know what they are, they're always tios.
yeah, we're like tío, tía.
And because they're so
But
much older, I think that's what it is
yeah,
too.
yeah. Yeah, so that's where it just, was anyways. But we learned in Venezuela, especially from mi tío Carlos, he was the one that had been there the longest. He would say, se pide bendición, you ask bendición. And so that's where I know I learned that. And I know in Mexico though, like the blessing siempre, every time like we would say bye or we'd go visit family or when we go tonight, eso sí, la bendición, like the actual physical
Mhm.
que te hacen la crucecita, and it's kind of like the several ones in Mexico, that I do know. In Venezuela, from what I learned, was that you say you actually like verbally ask for bendición, but you don't necessarily get the actual blessing.
Mhm.
I guess because of my multicultures, we just did both of them. So we ask for the bendición and we do that. So even when my son talks like FaceTime to my parents, I'm like, Papito, say bendición, bendición. And then he'll still do it on the iPhone to like my parents and he'll do a little bendición. So yeah, it's really cute. But it's one of those nice traditions that I think that it's nice to be able to pass on.
That's cute. I like that. I don't do it. I never did it. I don't remember doing it as a child. Um, I didn't experience that.
You heathen. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, and I grew up Catholic, but I never did that.
Mm.
So it's just different. And Nikte and I were together. Like when we were in Mexico,
Mhm.
we were together.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I also wanted to talk about, you know how there's all these things that happen when we have a baby, right? So the whole postpartum ritual of I remember one of my cousins saying she couldn't hold the baby because she was on her menstrual cycle, because then something would happen to the baby, or like cuarentena is what they call it, right? Like a quarantine. So I loved it because I got to get I was pampered, right? So like my sheets were like ironed, like you couldn't go outside and be exposed to the sun because you would get a headache. Just Nikte, did you experience that? I see Maddie. She's like, oh yeah. Nikte, did you? Because who was it just you and your husband after you had your son, or
Well,
did you experience a cuarentena?
no, but my situation was very different because
Yeah.
my son was born 3 months earlier. So everything was unplanned. Everything was kind of an urgency because I had that severe preeclampsia. So a lot of this, I didn't have a baby shower. I didn't like any of that. So the traditional stuff that you go through, I didn't have that. And I was in the hospital for, I feel like 10 days or something even after giving birth. So I didn't realize there was even a cuarentena thing until like maybe a couple years ago. I'm like, oh, well, I missed that memo because I didn't get any of that. But again, my situation was so different. And, we were kind of just there. When I was giving birth, the first person to get there was my tia Hela, my aunt. She got there a couple hours after we said they had to induce me, she was the farthest one away, and that was really nice. And then my brother arrived, and my poor husband was kind of in between me being at the hospital, going to pick them up, and then coming back and forth. And then my parents came in, I think the following day or something like that. But it was a crazy season for me. So I didn't get to go through any of that, even the postpartum
Mhm.
thing, I think because of my son being born so early and all those emergency surgeries, I didn't have a, and I learned this later, my brain didn't allow myself to process that because I was more on making sure he was okay. I was like, as a mom too, like you put yourself last and it's kind of like, oh, I'll deal with that later. Oh, I'm feeling with this. Oh, I'll deal with that later. Right now, my priority is my son. So I actually didn't go through the postpartum thing until years later when like I just kind of allowed my body to. And that was super interesting to, uncover that when I was talking to a therapist and I was like, yeah, these things. And we came through ¿cómo se dice? La conclusión, based on, and so I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense, but, like, how and why?" I started to ask all these questions, but it's crazy how as mothers, you go through a path to focus on where the priority is. So for me, learning all these cuarentena things, and I was like, you know, as much as traumatizing things, and I wish my son would have gone through any of that, but I think my perspective in life is so different from like these little traditions. I'm like, I don't feel like I missed out. Like that's just my approach. But I enjoy seeing how other people have done it. I'm like, oh, they didn't, que no salían, and or the meals. I'm like, oh, okay, tell me more. I don't know any of this. So
Yeah.
that's my
It's like I have a friend, she's from the Dominican Republic, and she didn't have any family here. So when
Mm,
she got married to her husband here, her mother-in-law uh told her, "Oh no, you're having a big wedding. We're getting the dress," because in her mind, like this is low key, like this is
mm,
new, like the whole cultural, the tradition is new to me. But her mother-in-law like made took her like her own daughter and said, "You're having a
mm,
big wedding. You're
mm,
having the big dress, the white dress." To give her that, because I think sometimes, like for me, when I had both of my children, I was fortunate enough where my tia Lucy came from Colombia, so
mm,
I had the throwback original,
mm.
cuarentena. I was very limited as to what I could do, but
Oh,
she fed me healthy. She just pampered me, and she was with me
mm.
probably 2 months before, and then she stayed the
Wow.
entire cuarentena with me, especially with my first son. That's just some of the ones that I remember. And she would get mad at me sometimes. Even to this day, she'll be like, "Oh, just because you check with Dr. Google or something like that." But I try to follow the what she was telling me out of respect.
Mm.
And maybe some of the stuff is true because I did get a headache one time that I went outside, but I don't know if it was because of the sun or because I just had a headache, you know. Um, but I loved it. I embraced it. I think it's part of those traditions, like the bendición thing. And I
Mm.
felt so pampered. And I don't have any daughters, but if I ever have grandchildren and my daughter-in-law allows me to, like I would cater to her because it's
Mm.
you feel so good to be pampered because you're giving all your energy to the
Mm.
baby, you know. And I
Mhm.
didn't have to go back to the hospital. Like my baby came home when I came home.
Oh.
So for me, if I could have 10 kids, like I would, because I had such a great experience. Like women hate to hear me talk like this, but I
Mm.
loved being pregnant. It was amazing. What about you,
Oh.
Maddie?
For me, it was two different, very different experiences. I wasn't, like not the whole pamper thing, but it's more things, certain things that you can and cannot do. You can ask any Dominican woman that is pregnant when they are around their time about to give birth, they go to the hair salon and they get their hair done because you cannot wash your hair after you give birth. So you have to, there's certain, you have to kind of prepare yourself because you're gonna be secluded. And like you said, Viviana, you can't go out. And if you do go out, you have to cover your head, because you can get a cold or whatever from that. So your head has to be covered. You again, and like the period thing, carrying the baby while you have your period, that was more like an outside person, like
Yeah.
not the mom, but like somebody that came to visit. If they had their period and they carry your baby could get colics.
Yeah.
So and the baby will
Oh.
start crying and squirming. So and then that's around the newborn stages. So yes. So yeah, so I think I was a little bit more, and then my daughter was also born in the cold. She was born in February, so
Mm.
in New York, so it was snowing and it was very cold when she was born. So yeah, a lot of the things that they will say, I don't think I went out too much with her and stuff like that at the beginning. But you kind of follow some of those traditions. With my boys, like Nick said, there was so much going on. They were born, so early, again at 28 weeks, and I was in the hospital for like an extra week after where they were born too, and it was a C-section, and it was like, again, like you said, I had a 4-year-old at home, plus I had the twins that they were in the hospital, and it's like so many things going on. Every day was something different, so you kind of forget about yourself. When I hear you talk about your body and stuff like that, I always say my first year of the twins is a blur. Like there were a lot of things that happened, and I know I did a lot of things, but I can't remember like specific moments like I can with my daughter. And I remember, like, one of the things that I do remember, like I had a nurse that came to the house to kind
Mm.
of check on us, every, because again, when they came home, they were still very fragile. So she would come and check on us. And I remember one of the times that she came and she's like, no, I want to check you, because I had a C-section. Plus I had my tubes tied 6 weeks after. So I had two surgeries back to back, and she came and she checked me, and she said that, you know, my tubal ligation, one of the incisions was getting infected, and she's like, "Are you taking your pain medication?" And I said, "What pain medication?" And she goes, "It says here that the doctor gave you a prescription for pain." I said, "I don't have time for that." And I never, like, I remember getting out of the hospital, and while I was in the hospital, I was drinking Percocet. It was like strong stuff because I was in so much pain. But the minute I left the hospital, I never saw a Tylenol, like nothing. Like I never drank anything because I was so busy, and I needed to be aware of everything that was going on, that I would not take anything. And I think I found the prescription like many, many years after. Like the twins were like 10 or 15, something like that, when I found the prescription, and I threw it out. And I was laughing because I'm like, there's my Tylenol with codeine prescription, you know, that I never feel. But, you know, so yeah, I think when you get the chance to, you kind of listen, and again, out of respect. And you know, because my mom and my mother-in-law would tell me, "Oh, you can't do that, and you can't do that," and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it. But when it came, you know, to the twins, that I had to, because I had no choice, you know, it's like everything went out the window, you know. Like I'm in survival mode right now. So
Yeah, and like the ultimate rule, you have to wear the faja. Did you wear a faja,
Yes.
Nicte?
Oh yeah, my mom made me wear the hot paja.
and the baby too, you have to do a little faja for the baby so that their belly button sinks in and doesn't
Yes,
poke out. Yeah, so
yes,
the baby has to wear a little fajita, and yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Wow.
Nicte,
I
I feel
learned
so
so
bad. I
much.
want to throw you a baby shower.
You know,
Oh,
for the
it's
twins baby shower, like we had a date, and then of course they came so early that I had my baby shower like 2 months after the twins were born.
oh my God, I was
Oh,
spoiled. Yeah.
aw.
Yeah, like my mom just wrote, tu familia te consintió mucho. Yeah, I was super spoiled. Yeah,
Aw, that's beautiful though. That's
yeah.
I think, people are there for you in the time and place that they were meant to be. That's what I've believed.
Mhm.
And sometimes we don't see it until years later, but then you're able to tell these stories and you can reflect back and,
Mhm.
all of the because honestly, like every pregnancy is different, but your body has gone through like this crazy shock. So whether you had a good pregnancy, still that exhaustion is there. So
Mhm.
it's nice where you have people who've been there before, que te entienden and, help. I do remember my family was helping it, but it's like Maddie, you said that it's a blur. It really is a blur because I was exhausted and, I felt like I had to be como las vacas que tienen en las granjas because I couldn't breastfeed my son, but I had to keep up. I mean, it was months until he was actually able to do that. So I had to keep up, but I felt like I was one of those vaca lecheras with like the pumps because it was exhausting and it was so um like physically and mentally hard. But at that time, like I was like, I don't have time to think about this, let me just move on and but it's a beautiful blessing when you have people that see that. You get
Nikki,
it,
I want to
Maddie.
say, oh yeah, I wanted to say like with the breastfeeding thing, because it was the same thing with the twins. You know, like I couldn't physically, but I had to keep pumping because they say, especially at the beginning, it's so important that they get that breast milk. So, but I remember when I had my surgery, my tubal ligation, it was 6 weeks after the twins were born, and I remember like they give you so much anesthesia and you have to like drink so much fluid, and they put so much fluid. When I got out of the surgery, my boobs were about to explode. And I remember getting on the machine, and I've never had so much milk come out of me. And then the doctor goes, "Oh, but you got to throw that away because it has all the anesthesia and everything else." I was like, "No."
Yeah, it's like gold.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to
Yeah,
throw all of it out. It was like 2 full bottles. And I was like, oh my God, it hurt me so bad.
yeah,
Oh.
that's gold. That's like throwing away gold.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing the things that we the traditions that we experience, and then how we're able to mesh the traditions from our family members to
Mhm.
now being in the United States. I like that combination. And even though Nicte Cinco de Mayo has been commercialized so much, I love that so many people that are not Latinos celebrate it, right?
Mhm.
Even though they might
Mhm.
not know the true meaning, but they
Mhm.
know that they're celebrating some type of Latino, Hispanic something, and they embrace it and they love
The
it. And
awareness.
the
Mhm.
taco sales are up here, and the margarita sales are also very high, which brings me to my point that we as Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion to the economy. So we love Cinco de Mayo. We love celebrating Cinco de Mayo, even though we don't know what it is, but we love to celebrate it because we want to continue to contribute to the economy. So, but yeah, but it's true. I think sometimes we just kind of do just because that's what we're doing, unless
Mhm.
at some point in your life you become inquisitive and ask
Mhm.
yourself, "Oh my God, like what is that really?" So I
Mhm.
just think until you get to that point of educating yourself, Maddie, then you're like, "Oh, okay. So now I know why it's Taco Tuesday or whatever it is that we celebrate." But
Yeah, I do have to say that I saw this nice book in one of those advertisements on Instagram, and I think I am going to get it. But it says the book that you should always get your mom, and it's like, "Mom, I want to learn your story," and it's full of questions, like different questions. Like if like there was one that was like, if there was if your life, the story of your life had a soundtrack, what would be the
Mhm.
song? Something like that, and why? And it like there were so many questions, and I was like, oh my god, like I would love to write this for my children. So
Mhm.
I saw it. I think I'm gonna order it because it,
I love that.
again, probably a lot of things that you don't share, that they might want to be interested in reading later. So like for you, Viviana, for your abuelita and your
Yeah.
mom, it would be amazing.
Mhm.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds great. All right, ladies. So our time has run out. And so we're ready for your poem, Maddie.
Uh, so before I go into poem, I do want to say, I did say that I wasn't pampered, and I wasn't, but I kind of was because my mom, like with the twin situation, she moved in with me, and I always say that that's the twins' mom. The only thing she didn't do was carry them, but then she did everything else for me. So I think I was always very spoiled because of the mom that I had. I thought everybody had a mom like mine, until I realized that not everybody did. So, and I say that because this Tuesday would have been my mom's 80th birthday. So, happy birthday to my mom. But I'm going to read a poem from our book, Bend Them Till They Break. I'm going to read my poem that I have in there. I was going to read one of the other girls' poem, but I think the poem that I contributed goes with our topic and what we're talking about today, traditions. So this is a poem that I've done here a couple of times, but it's, again, perfect for this moment. It's called Flame of the Forest. So I am a flame of the forest, and that is a flamboyant Caribbean tree rooted in the experiences of those who came before me. I am an eclectic mix of Eurocentric Africana with an indigenous twist. I'm not just some, I am all of it. My crown. The first thing you notice about this tree, I am a direct reflection of the fire ignited at its pith, the heat on my tongue, confined between the walls of the English language ABCs, putting stop in all of my R's as if the ñes I learned as a kid didn't exist, as if this accent was an impediment because it makes it hard for the white man to understand. Like I'm not sitting here dominating the English language while reminding you my Spanish came first. My Taino people didn't become extinct so that I will be silent. They gave me a voice, a loud bark that serves as a protection for what resonates inside within the collection of rings at the core of this tree, each one, a circle of infinity knowledge and fight my ancestors passed down to me so that I may continue our legacy, so that I can poem our narrative into our paper and not be forced to read how others perceive us to be, because I am the Spanish culture culture that's been infused into our blueprint, the African resilience that refuses to dissipate in the mix, the Taino roots that have been planted more than skin deep. This skin that's made rough by the stories intertwined to make up our DNA. This white privilege that gets canceled out by our Black and our indigenous heritage, forced to conform. But not my abuela, you see. My grandmother still refuses to stop speaking her native tongue. To some, it may be rebellion, but to her, it's her only hope so that the substance of who we are is not totally lost. If you listen to her words, they will always be encoded with the coordinates of home, like asking my abuelita for la bendición, with a kiss on my forehead to let me know that God will always guide me because that's what she asked for in every oración. And as I grow old, I know my branches will not have my abuelita to bless them on, as it will be my turn. And in my grandkids' broken Spanish, it will sound more like Siompita. And with a smile, I will always respond, Dios les bendiga, vayan con Dios. In other words, what I want my leaves to know is that even as you go further from my trunk, you are me, you and I are we. That I know traditions will evolve, that we will always mix the new with a little bit of the old, but ultimately the essence of who we are will forever live on. That even when you no longer speak Espanol, you will forever bear traces of the history that runs through your blood. That even when you decide to go out there and grow a forest of your own, never forget you are part of this tree made of all of us.
I love that, Maddie. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
As you were reading it, I was thinking about my grandmother, because she'll just say que Dios te bendiga. So when I leave, she always tells me that. So they don't say the bendición, but it's equivalent, I guess, to the bendición.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
So it's the same thing. I love that book. So bend them till they break.
Yes, bend until the break. We're not on Amazon or any other platforms because, like I said, we just ordered like 50 copies so we can fundraise for this event, and they're $15. And if you're interested, just DM me or come see my show, Viviana. Come see the show. Come see the show this one.
Send me the information, because I haven't been in a long time. I haven't seen you.
Yes, come over.
All right, sounds good. Well, ladies, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you for our audience watching us and sharing our show with everybody else. And thank you to Mark, our producer, who makes all of this happen. And we look forward to seeing you again next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
Adios. Bye.
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
If you're watching this with your friends, you'll probably make a joke.
Because you know what you feel on the inside
isn't what you want people to know.
If you have to pretend to be happy,
find someone you trust and tell them.
If you get mad at things and you don't know why, or have thoughts about hurting yourself,
find someone you trust and tell them.
You are never alone when you share.
Seriously, people care about you.
It's okay to not understand what you're feeling.
And it's easy to think that you're all alone.
But you don't have to be.
You're never alone when you share.
Don't be ashamed to tell someone you trust what you're feeling.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
Tell a parent.
Tell a teacher. Tell a brother or sister.
Or just tell a friend.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
It's how things get better.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me
With all my grades, they all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be. A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.